Hey, I'm Jacinta Daniel, writer, speaker, and host of Polished Jems. This podcast is for the ones rebuilding their faith, rediscovering their purpose, and returning to God, one fruit of the Spirit at a time. If that's you, hit subscribe and join the journey, because healing is possible and your faith story isn't finished yet. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Polished Gems. I'm your host, Jacinta Daniel. And tonight, guess what we're talking about? We're talking about how to guard your joy in a noisy world, practical boundaries for peace. Guys, this is so applicable for what is going on. If you've heard what's going on in the news, especially around the world, but here in the United States, this is so needed for such a time as this. The world is often noisy. It's not just, it never stops, is what I'm starting to notice. And what we've done over the past few weeks, especially for the month of March, we have been talking about understanding joy. We've talked about even cultivating joy. We've even talked about how to rise again after going through so much, because life does life. We can't get around it. We have to overcome it and many times go through a thing. But how do we protect the joy? Once we've learned to understand it, once we learn to cultivate it and use it to rise again, how do we actually protect it? That's something that's been truthfully, majorly on my heart, because it's one of the things that when the world is going through a lot, when your own world is going through a lot, whether it be situations or circumstances, ones that you expected to go through, ones that caught you by surprise, how do we protect the joy that God has given us? How do we protect the joy that He freely gives and shares with the fruit of His Spirit? Because joy is precious. And what is precious must be guarded. Just as we defend and guard our families, just as we defend and got to guard our hearts, it must be guarded. And what I've learned, especially in this particular season of my life, if we don't set boundaries, the world will gladly set them for us. But so will the enemy. The enemy will test those boundaries. The enemy will, and it will be in stuff that we don't even recognize, is what I've come to find out. It will be like the simplest things that we didn't realize our boundaries are just being chipped away at. And that could be in your marriage, that could be in your relationship with your children, that could be at your job. It's so much sometimes. But God says we can still have joy. We just got to also learn to protect it. So we're going to talk about that today. Let's talk about how to protect our joy. Let's not let the outside voices define what peace is supposed to look like, what our joy is supposed to look like. Let's also talk about the scriptural foundation for tonight. That is Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 through 9. And I use I call it the MSG version, but it's the message version for those who have not heard about that. And let me see here if this is the correct one, because it's looking like the amplified version. Hold on, let me double check myself. Actually, no, this is the message version that I put in my notes. And it says, summing it all up, friends. I'd say you'll do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. Put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. Do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into His most excellent harmonies. And now I love this from a musical perspective, that everything works together. When they said harmonies, like, I thought of songs that I loved as a child. And that's how sees us. Like, everything is interwoven. Our lives are interwoven in the tapestry of what God has created. And with that being said, that's why the harmonies thing really spoke to my heart in particular from a musical perspective. That this is why He wants us to watch what we think about. Because if Clearly, if we're watching the news constantly, if we're watching our circumstances, depending on what's going on, or even the situations that we have to go through or overcome, it is easy to not feel joy. It's easy to not think joy is available for us as well. And what he wants us to do is make sure that we're guarding it. And what guarding joy looks like is being intentionally active and vigilantly responsible about what we focus on and what we think on. That's where we can start. What I've learned, especially over the last couple of days, is that joy leaks where our boundaries are loose. That's how things slip in. That's how negativity comes in as well. So tonight I wanted to teach about this. What actually steals your joy? Let me share with you one area. The first area is comparison erodes our contentment. Comparison erodes our contentment. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you've ever heard that phrase, it is so true. Because the reason why, what it does is it shifts your focus away from your own blessings. You stop operating in gratitude for God for what He has done for you because you're so focused on somebody else's blessings. You're so focused on what they have, especially if it's a desire of your heart. I'll talk to you guys about marriage. For some people, it is a desire of their heart so deeply, so passionately, that it consumes their every waking moment. But when it consumes their every waking moment and their friends are getting married, their family members are getting married, their cousins are getting married, but they're still waiting on the Lord, that can become frustrating. But what if you're comparing yourself to those people, not knowing the work that God has had to do in them and the spouse? You don't know what obstacles fully they've had to climb other than the ones that maybe they have shared. But we don't know what people have had to do behind closed doors, what God has asked them in private moments. We don't know what dreams or visions they were given. We don't even know if they were asked to fast, how long to fast, or what God required of them. So when we compare, it starts to foster resentment and make us think of rivalry. Because we go, oh, they got the marriage. How come I didn't get mine? Those feelings of bitterness toward that marriage start to bubble up. We even start to isolate ourselves and withhold the likes or even the kindness. It becomes hard to say congratulations on your marriage because it starts to form a jealousy deep within us. And then, of course, it can even damage our relationships with those people. Because we start feeling a certain way, we feel as if, well, that should have been me. Why isn't it my time? We start to tear to shreds slowly the genuine connection we may have had with those people. Do not let comparison turn people around you, people that you love, people that you care for, into your competitors. And even people you don't know. The other thing that comparison does is it blinds you to your own progress. You really start to forget how far you've come with God. You start to focus on somebody else's timeline, like, oh, their business took off. Why hasn't mine taken off? Oh, they're starting a family. Why can't I? We stop noticing exactly how far we come and what wins that God placed in our lives along our timeline of living. Comparison makes the victories, our own personal victories with God, feel so small, feel so meaningless. Because to us, those other people seem like they're further and further ahead in life. There are a lot of people who, and I'll even explain for myself, I've had moments, I'm 41 years old, and I've had moments where even at 41, I have looked at some people and I'm like, wow, they seem so much further ahead in life than I am. And I'm 41 years old. Like, why don't I have it together? I have asked those questions. I have asked that of God because I have felt like I've been behind when I compare my life to other people. But I also have to remember other people haven't been through some of the things that I've been through. I've been through a divorce. Am now on a second marriage, repairing what I see love as, repairing what God is telling me marriage is, repairing how to put patience in this new relationship, the kindness, love, faithfulness, goodness, and the rest of his fruit of his spirit. And also how to integrate my children, which I asked that even before we got married. See, people who've had to rebuild, you really cannot compare your lives to anyone else because your timeline of rebuilding has to come with repair. It has to come with time. It has to come with healing. It has to come with choices to get up again and even try. So we are not allowed to sit in comparison because if we do, it will steal our joy. And if God has given you the opportunity to rebuild your life, the opportunity to try again with Him and with intention, because you have to go to Him to ask, what do I do next? How do I do this? That's God showing you. He is still in the midst of your situation, your timeline, your circumstance, and that you don't have to compare it to anybody else. You just need to walk it out with Him. So I'm going to give you two solutions that you can implement to not allow comparison to steal your joy. One is curate your digital environment. We live in a social media society. I call it the microwave society because everything is literally at our fingertips. We can get it quick, fast, and hurry. Heck, you can even order stuff online. Okay. I'm part of the generation where we had to go to the mall or we had to go to the library to figure out what we needed. And God is asking us to examine that area of our lives. If you have to set screen time for yourself or a focus on your iPhone, do so. Do so. Set limits, set do not disturb. Whatever you need to do to help you not go down a doom scrolling session. It's not just the news, it's looking at sometimes it's the doom comes from looking at other people having the life that you desire. If that is hurting your heart, if that is making you sad, if that is causing you to feel a way about your own life, it is time to set a time limit on social media. Whatever, and ask God, what's the best time limit? Because maybe at the top of your day is not the best. Maybe the afternoon is, but only for 15 to 30 minutes. Sit with Him and ask so that you're not comparing your life to the life that you see on social media. Also, set boundaries in conversations. A lot of times there are triggers that come from family and friends easily. Let me explain what some of them sound like. They sound like, oh, so when do you plan on having kids? When do you guys plan on having kids? Or they sound like, yeah, so what are you doing in that business of yours again? Or the one a lot of people always say, what's happening with that little business you got on the side? No, that business is not little. It might be little right now, but it's not little. Not to God, not to me. What I need for you to do is to be honest with people. And let me explain what I mean. Be honest and letting them know I'm just trying to focus on X, Y, and Z right now. And you could either say whatever it is. Can we talk about something else? Or you can shift the conversation however you need to shift it and ask God in the moment. Say, God, they're talking about this right now, and I really don't want to talk about this topic. Can you help me change it? Watch God step in and give you something very creative or very simple and go, hey, talk about this instead. The next thing you know, the conversation has easily shifted and they don't even know why it has changed. He's got your back and he's got you covered. Just ask him and include him so that comparison does not steal your joy any longer. The second thing that can steal our joy is overexposure can create anxiety. I'm going to say that again. Overexposure can create anxiety. I talked a lot about doom scrolling, and of course, that's something that we hear a lot about, especially with the global state of the world and things that are going on. What it does is heighten the the feeling of the bad things that are happening around us. We become so hyper aware to it that the negativity ends up training our brain to really truthfully ignore the good things in our life. The bad things become so amplified and so loud around us that that's all we hear. We start to feel hopeless. We start to feel powerless. We start to feel like, well, man, if this doesn't change, X, Y, and Z is going to happen to me. We start to believe whatever the narrative that is whispered to us. We start to even believe that the world is just too broken for us to even know what joy is, to know what happiness is anymore. And that is not what God desires for us. He already told us that there will be things that happen in this world, that there will be things that happen in this life. You can read that throughout the Bible. You can definitely see that in the book of Revelation. He even said that there would be rumors of wars and wars, but he never told us to be so focused on that we lose sight of him, to be so focused on that we lose sight of the joy that he could provide in the midst of the chaos, or the joy that he can provide in the midst of the circumstance. The other thing that we have to understand about the overexposure is decision fatigue. And this is one I've been dealing a lot with lately, and brain fog. So lately, not necessarily because the stream of information and how quickly information gets to us, but the level of decisions that I feel I have to make. I think in preparation of what is to come. For example, watching wars develop, watching what people have to do to stay safe. That makes me personally feel like I have so many decisions I have to make on behalf of my children, on behalf of even with my husband, to make sure we feel safe. And yes, by all means, prep yourself, prep your heart, things of that nature, but don't let it overtake you. God always wants us to come to him to see what we have to prepare for and to stay ready for. There's even a Bible portion, and I need to look it up for you guys, that talks about the ant. It talks about the ant prepares herself before the winter. She goes out and gets her food. It talks about we are supposed to be prepared for certain situations. We might not be fully prepared as we feel, right? Meaning that our feelings might not line up with how prepared that we actually are. But seek God for what preparation in all things looks like. One of the phrases my husband simplifies that as is, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And he reminds me of that phrase because it helps him stay focused without feeling bombarded with everything that could hit his brain at once. And for me, that's the biggest thing for me, is experiencing sometimes mental exhaustion, which can make simple tasks feel so overwhelming that I don't even want to do it. But God needs me to realize That joy often comes from being present and making meaningful choices. So examine your situation. Are you feeling brain fog? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Is anxiety starting to rise up? Ask where it's coming from. Ask God what's leaving you feeling stuck, almost as if you're running on autopilot, just trying to survive the day. Is it too much news? Is it too much opinions of family, friends, coworkers, you name it? Is it people having too much access to you? Constantly asking you questions and not figuring out stuff for themselves or going to God. Because just as they have access to God, so do you. So they have another source that they can go to. They have another resource as well. So now that I talked about the things that steal your joy when it comes to overexposure, let's talk about how we can rectify that situation and how we can change it for the better. What we have to realize is that information with intimacy with God stabilizes us. What does that mean? It can provide perfect peace in the midst of the storm. Realizing that staying close to God, being and that the intimacy here that I'm talking about is where you're constantly cultivating that relationship with God, where you feel that strong sense of His presence in your life. That helps to guard your mind. Remember what I said the Bible verse to focus was fill your minds and meditate on things that are true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, and not the worst. When we stay close to God, we will think on those things. That will help us redefine what peace is supposed to look like in our lives and what God meant when He said perfect peace, that He'd keep us in perfect peace because our mind is stayed on Him. The relationship with Him, as it draws closer, as you continue to make it a forefront in your daily lives, it fosters the resilience to help you weather any storm, no matter what it is, whether you even cause the storm yourself, and help you to remain mentally and emotionally grounded, even in the most difficult situations that we have to face. The other thing that information with intimacy with God stabilizes us does is it shifts our identity from performance based to being beloved. Now, what does that mean? A lot of times we use information to make us feel like we have to earn God's favor. Like, oh, because I know this or because I've found out this, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and God's going to love me because of it. God has told us time and time again in the Bible, He has given us examples, He has even shown us that it is not through our performance that He loves us. It is actually through creating intimacy and a relationship with God, getting to actually know Him, getting to know His heart, not just His hand, getting to know His Son Jesus, getting to know the Holy Spirit and how He comforts us, keeping those relationships constant. That's what roots us into those deeper forms of intimacy with God. That our self-worth is no longer tied up in our to-do list. So it's not about, oh God, what can I do for you today? No, it's have a moment with Him. Have a moment with Him, whether it's a coffee and Jesus moment, whether it's a lunch and Jesus moment, whether it's a talk to Him throughout your day. I am constantly talking to God throughout my day. I am constantly making decisions with God because I'm like, I am not there. I get decision fatigue often from the amount of decisions that I make throughout a day. I've gotten to the point where I will constantly ask God this. I will say, listen, this is a lot. I need your help. I need your help. I need you to help me get through this. And I don't care if it's as simple as, God, what should I make for dinner for my family? I need something nourishing to their bodies. Give me an idea, please. and he will direct me in what to do. I don't even care if it's as simple as, God, what should I wear for this podcast episode? He will let me know if I need something new or if I have something in my closet. I promise. I ask God for the littlest of things. Things that most people think that, why would you ask them that? You're bothering him. No, 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 no. Let me explain something to you. God has shown me time and time again that he cares for the little things. I have way too much evidence of God caring for all my little prayers. All the prayers that I have thought were insignificant, God has been there and he has answered them. He has proven to me that I am lovable through those answered prayers, that I am valuable through those answered prayers. And I know if you just give him a try, he will do the same for you. You will end up understanding that you have a deep sense of purpose to him. And in that relationship, as you keep creating it, you will find that there's a security that the world cannot even offer. But you will only find that with him. And let me give you a third thing to help um, understand about joy is that boundaries are spiritual wisdom. This is something that we have to put in place. We have to have boundaries. If we don't have boundaries when it comes to joy and protecting it, it actually leads to resentment burnout. And let me explain what that means. Without boundaries, have you ever found yourself saying yes to everything and everyone? Yes to everything and everyone at your job. Yes to everything and everyone in your family. Yes to just showing up for others and then feeling super drained when you needed something. A lot of times when we say yes, it's out of guilt or fear of disappointment. We don't want people to be disappointed with us. And I get that. God even gets that. But he also wants us to set boundaries and say no. There are times when we are really, truthfully allowed to say no. Sometimes we're overextending ourselves, not realizing we're actually being a hindrance to people. That even includes our children. That even includes our children. I can give you an example, even for me. There are times I will do things for my youngest, for my son. And I will say yes when I really should say no. Sometimes it's the simple things. Sometimes it's just making him a sandwich. This boy can reach the stove. He can reach the fridge. He can reach the utensils. He can make his own sandwich. And not to say that there are times I don't help him or uh, cater to him. But what I'm realizing as his mother, if I am not careful, where I can be a hindrance, is if I keep doing things for him and he never gets the chance to try for himself. That's a big one that God has been on me about in being a mother. Because at the end of the day, there is going to come a time when he will leave home. And instead of getting up and trying for himself, he might ask somebody else to do something simply for him that he should be doing on his own. I don't want to be a hindrance. What if your yes is hindering people? And that burnout that you feel is because you are allowing yourself to be drained, turned into resentment toward the very people you believe you are trying to help. True joy comes from helping others that God instructs you to help with a willing and cheerful heart. Not out of a sense of forced obligation or even exhaustion or thinking, well, I just should do it anyway. The other thing I want you to think about this, if you don't have boundaries, what ends up happening is it erodes your identity and it erodes your self-worth. worth. What we have to understand is there is biblical boundaries for us when we are rooted in knowing our worth in Christ. Just as his child. I'm not talking about your other titles. I'm not talking about what your title, your degrees. I'm not talking about your title at work. I'm not talking about your title as wife, husband, whatever else you can think of. I'm just talking about the one title, child of God. In that allows you valuable time and energy to take part in sacred gifts that God gives. That's his protection. That's the fruit of his spirit that I mentioned earlier. We are allowed to partake in those things: the love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the goodness. Without limiting this area, without putting up boundaries, we might start to feel like a doormat, believing that our value depends entirely on how much we can do for others. If you have ever dealt with people pleasing, I have. I've dealt with people pleasing. I have dealt with the disappointment of feeling like if I don't show up, then I don't have value. I got to such a point of people pleasing that I did not like people. And the interesting thing about God is you can't go serve his people and not like people. This is why God isolated me for a season and for a while, because I needed to sit down. I needed to take care of me. I needed to know that I was loved just for being Jacinta, not for what I could do for people, not that I could solve their problems or be a resource for them. God needed me to realize that there's a steady joy for me to just be. And I didn't need the approval of man to partake in that. One of the things he constantly reminds me of is that Jesus withdrew. When he needed a break, he withdrew. He would just get in the boat and sometimes go to the other side of an area or go to a garden. If he did that, then we must do that too. The other thing is silence is strength. It was in my isolation, during that season of isolation, that I realized God was strengthening me. I needed that. I needed to hear his voice louder than everyone else's. I needed his help to rebuild from the inside out. And remember, no is holy. It's okay to say no to the things that God is asking you to say no to. And if you need help saying no, we got too many devices and technology to help create boundaries that are needed and necessary for you to get what you need. So, with that being said, I want to give you activation challenges that I actually use myself, that God has helped me. So, this week, remove one noise source out of the ones that I've already mentioned and add in a peace practice. So, let me explain what I mean by that. So, one that you could do is I do this one. It's worship music in the morning. I actually turn on worship instrumental music that I find that can be off of whatever source you want to use. Mine happens to be YouTube. And in the morning, I literally will play that. I let that play to help me get out of bed in the morning. Even if because sometimes I'll get up before my alarm. God will have me do that. And I'll just sit there for a few minutes, listen to the worship music. And the instrumental ones that I like have the Bible verses on the screen. And those help me in the morning start my day because it shifts my focus because I dream at night very often. So it will shift my focus from whatever the dream is into preparing for my day. And those help me get out of bed most mornings, if not all. The second one practice that I want to give you is do a hard stop at night. What do I mean by that? Pick a time, whatever works best for you that you're going to go to bed at night. Now, if you work at night, this is different. It might be a time in the day for you, but I'm going to explain what I do so you can make it make sense for you. I actually pick a time like 8:30 p.m. I think it used to be 7 p.m. that I would have an alarm on my phone constantly to go to bed. It would remind me to stop thinking about problems, start thinking about whatever happened that day, stop trying to fix whatever happened. Stop trying to think about like, because sometimes I'll get new business ideas or I'll get something to add to the ministry or the podcast, and I want to work out that solution. And God will be like, can you just let it go for right now? So for me, it's a stop working. Let your brain calm down and actually prepare for rest. So, whatever time works best for you, you know your schedule, God knows your schedule. Always seek Him if you're not sure what's the best time. But for me right now, it's 8:30 p.m. And a third practice that you could use that I want to give you is the short and sweet no. So, when someone asks you to actually do something and you really don't have the capacity, let alone the energy for it, it's a I'd love to, but I can't take that on right now. Or I'd love to, but I can't talk about that right now. Um, and past that, you don't need to explain why. Now, if God asks you to, then of course. But if no is just no, I'd love to, but I can't take that on right now. I don't have the capacity for that right now. There are many of times I've learned to start saying that. And that has been the most helpful thing for me. Like I said, as a person who dealt with people pleasing, letting people know that I just don't have the capacity for that right now. Sorry. Um, yeah, so that they understand, listen, I just can't do that. I can't take that on right now. And that has helped me set boundaries for myself so I don't get caught up in the things of this world, so I don't get so caught up. Now, do I sometimes forget? Of course, and have to pick back up these practices. There are plenty of times that I have done that where I have doom scrolled and found myself doom scrolling and I'm freaking out till like 3 in the morning. And then I finally get some sleep and my alarm goes off at 5 and I'm like, oh, I only got 2 hours of sleep. That happens. But then I have to remind myself to get back up and be intentional the next night. Let's not do that again. So do not worry if you make a mistake. Just be intentional on trying and keep on trying till you get it. What I want you to take away from this whole entire podcast and kind of to sum up the whole season of joy that we really talked about this month is joy thrives where wisdom builds boundaries. Joy has to be cultivated. Joy has to be understood, and it also has to be practiced so that you can understand how to even use it to get through hard times. God is willing to show you and teach you that. But guys, I also understand if you're like, I need some help. Because that was me. I needed help with joy. I feel like it took me probably about a decade to really fully start to understand it better. This is the first time that I can even say on this podcast that I'm starting to understand joy God's way. And I've been doing this for a while, not necessarily the podcasting part, but I've been blogging. I've been writing about the fruits of his spirit. I've been doing this for a while. And this is the first time that I'm really like joy has been activated in me and understanding how to use it and how to cultivate it and how to keep it. And if you're saying, well, that's not me, I don't know how to even get it. I'm not sure what that even looks like. I get it. That was me. But that's why God gave me this platform to let you know that I have resources for that. I have things that can help you with that. I have things that can turn that around. If you keep cultivating your relationship with God, you can also get what you need from my community. So, guys, if you're looking to join a community where you want to get more joy in your life, you want to understand what God says about joy, then come join us over on our Patreon. That's where I talk more in depth about things of this nature. This is where you can learn how to cultivate joy, understand joy, be reaffirmed in what it is biblically, so that you can actually walk in it. It is my prayer, just as I can tell you, I can smile and tell you that I have joy like no other. I'm experiencing joy like no other in this season. It's because it finally clicked with God. Like God kept telling me, He didn't give up on me about experiencing it, understanding it, and what to do with it. And I am so grateful. And if that's you, come join us over on Patreon and we'll help you as well. So, guys, that's the podcast. And thank you for tuning in. If you missed any of the previous episodes, also go back and take a look. If this one has helped you out, touched your soul, given you a word from the Lord, also share it with a friend. Guys, we thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe as well. And until next time, we'll see you, God willing, in the next month. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.